Well, my dad worked out at General Dynamics in Fort Worth, and Mother was a housewife. And I had always wanted to go in the Army, planned to make a career out of it. So I went in 61 and went down to Fort Hood, Texas for induction, and then went by train all the way up to Fort Carson, Colorado, at Colorado Springs. Had my basic training and advanced training up there, and then about half the company went to Germany and about half to Korea, and 12 of us had put in for the Caribbean, so we wound up going to Panama. And when we got down to Panama, I wound up in a rifle company, in a rifle squad, and was in that for a number of months. And then the captain decided that we were going to walk all the way across the isthmus. It took us 5 days going from coast to coast through the jungle during the rainy season. And we came back through the canal on an LCM. And not too long after that, since I could type, they offered me the job as company clerk. And I jumped on that, and that's probably the best thing that I ever did. And I was down there during the Cuban Missile Crisis when we were guarding the locks with an unloaded M1, and had 2 bandoliers of ammunition and fully loaded pistol belt, steel helmet, and whatnot, but wouldn't let us load the rifle. So we guarded the canal, and then when that was over, later on, I guess it was 63, we had the riots down there. We had 3 guys from our company get wounded, and during the riots, I had to go down and stayed a few days till the captain told me I was looking too much like a soldier, so he sent me back to do the morning reports. And then I guess next was the Kennedy assassination, and in August of 64, I came back up to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and was discharged. So I was out for about 2 years and didn't know for sure what I wanted to do. I went up to TCU and took the tests and passed them, but I couldn't afford to go. So I had a few little small jobs and then decided to go back in the service in 66, and the Army wasn't going to be able to do anything for me. They told me they could, but it wasn't going to work. I wanted to go artillery, and they said they couldn't promise me anything. So the recruiter said we'd go down and talk to the chief, and I didn't know they did that. So he said, we can put you in for 2 years on a 2-year prior service enlistment, no boot camp. And so I said, that sounded like a pretty good deal. I wanted to go to Vietnam. He said, you probably can go to Vietnam just because you want to go. And I said, a lot of them don't. And you can be a gunner's mate because of your infantry experience. So I enlisted in October of 66. We went out to San Diego, and within a week I had my uniforms and was on the ship. And they didn't tell me about deck force. 6 months of mess cooking and 6 months of swabbing the deck. So I thought we pulled out to sea, and I'm up swabbing the deck, and I thought this is going to be a long 6 months. We go down to I went down to the compartment, and as I tell people, it's almost like God put a hand on my shoulder and said, Mike, don't worry about it, I'll take care of you. The division officer was down there, and he said, you still want to be a gunner's mate? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, go down and see the chief. I talked to him about you, and that afternoon I was in. It was just that doggone easy, no deck force for 6 months. So I wound up as the trainer to train the 6-inch turret. We were on a guided missile light cruiser, the USS Galveston, and they put me in a 6-inch forward turret. We had two triple 6-inch turrets and 3 twin 5-inch mounts, and then the Talos missile launcher back aft. And I wound up as studying to be the trainer on the turret, and my cleaning stations were the hoist deck, where the hoist brought the projectiles up, and the shell deck, where we had the projectiles. And they wound up sending us to the Mediterranean. Since I had put in to go to Vietnam, we went to the Mediterranean for 6 months. But we got to go through the canal. I could see my Army barracks over there, which was really interesting. Went up to Newport, Rhode Island, got to take a bus tour up to Boston, and then we went over to the Mediterranean and visited, oh gosh, probably six or eight countries.